Hello, this is Lisa Russick and Misty Lore with the podcast We Are All Psychic, and we have Cortney with us today. Again, we love Cortney on the show, and we all have to ask ourselves, well, Cortney, we'll ask you last. Misty, do you still think we're all psychic?
I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and the answer to that question is yes.
It's yes.
I've been thinking about it a lot lately too, and the answer is yes. Now, Cortney, we heard something from you before the podcast. What did you say? Your answer might be a little different.
Yeah, well, hi, ladies, and hi, everybody listening. I just adore being here with you. I knew you were going to ask me this because I've answered it twice before. And my last one was like, definitely now people jump on board. And now my answer is yes, but I think the definition needs to start shifting and changing. Exactly. Because we're changing and shifting, that I think everybody, yes, always has the potential. And it's not that we're just opening up. I think, the definition, because everybody in their head kind of thinks, oh, psychic, I hear messages or this or that. And there's distinct, different distinctions here. But like that, all those empaths that are
that's psychic acknowledging, it's energy work. Yeah,
that are acknowledging, whoa, I do feel all this stuff. Most of the time, their intuition is skyrocketed. That's a form of psychic ability.
Yeah. Sure. I think empathy is too. I think it's all energy work. And I just like the catchy phrase, we're all psychic,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, but it's like, it's all energy work. It's all whatever you do.
I think we all as individuals have definitely the possibility and can do it. And I think for every individual, it's different. Yeah. And so even if you think you don't, I can almost guarantee you are.
And you have. What I mean? Yeah. You've had it before too.
Yes.
Yeah. You always look back, and when you second guess something that happened in the past and you really look back at it, why'd you second guess it if you thought it was a psychic experience?
Exactly.
And then you're like, I'm just very observant.
Yeah, right.
You're very psychic too.
Really? Let's just develop that a little more. Yeah.
Yeah. And think of it a little differently. Why not be psychic? What's wrong with that? You can be extrasensory perception is psychic. So if you are if you're extrally perceiving things, you're ESPing. If you're very perceptive.
How oftentimes, because my husband's a massive feeler, he's a double Cancer. Oftentimes I might be in my head too much or working too much, and I don't want to really look at it, I don't really want to know. I'll turn to him and go, what are you feeling? Because his feeling is usually spot on.
Now, Cortney, you just gave us a great lead into the topic of this podcast, and it was beautiful. She did. She says, listeners, when she's not too sure, or she's looking at something she doesn't maybe want to really look at, she turns to him. So we were talking before the podcast about, how it's an ongoing thing, facing ourselves while we're working and developing our energy working skills, psychic skills, witch skills, intuition, meditation. I mean, there's a lot of things. You probably heard it. You have self-care and examine yourself, and shadow work. If you've heard of shadow work, looking at your dark stuff and not being afraid of it anymore, working through the fears. So we thought we three of us would like to share with you. Sometimes they're pretty vulnerable for us when we had to really face something. So if you're going through it, maybe you can relate to this. And I had something just today, but I'll save that. But, for to start off the conversation, I think one of the more difficult things I had to look at to start healing a lot of my insecurities was that I didn't feel like what I had to say was important. And I had to dig down where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun to look at, I had to look at why I thought that what I had to say wasn't important. And it's kind of like, a lot of times for me, when I'm going down into looking at myself, I'm towing that line of thinking I'm an egotistical person by even thinking about this stuff. But that's like the little doubts in my head trying to block me from facing it, I think. Mm-hmm. The thing saying, you're bad if you look at this and give yourself forgiveness. Or if you look at this, you're going to find something wrong with you. and that you can't fix. But the thing is the deeper I looked into it, I never really was listened to when I was in my high school years because I was very soft spoken and I didn't really speak what I meant. I was not myself because I thought no one really wanted to hear what I had to say. But then it went deeper than that. So why not?
Why not?
And look at you now.
Well, yeah, I'm talking my mouth off.
Yeah, now.
Well, I started writing, and that's when I could really express myself. And I figured that I felt like I couldn't be understood because of the way word connotation works, especially when we're young, in our teenage years. We don't have many meanings for the word, or meanings, but connotations. Meanings like when I said, we talked about this on other podcasts, I think Jennifer and Love and I just talked about this. Let's say I say fairy candle. Some people might be, ooh, a fairy candle would be awesome. Some people be like, ooh, fairy candle, what's that? Or some people might be, ooh, fairies are bad, they're going to get you. Everyone has a connotation. So like at 15, if I were to say, I hate chemistry to someone who loves it, just a small example, just kind of whatever, not really meaning it. They could have taken it totally personally. And then therefore I would feel like I had nothing important to say. And then they'd walk away and not talk to me anymore, for example. But when I started writing out, I could express myself better. And then I could reenact it in my imagination through writing fiction and dialogue into having conversations with people where I could really say what I meant and felt understood. It's still hard to feel understood, though. It is. But I really couldn't articulate what I really was and really feeling. A lot of it was because I didn't know what I was really thinking and feeling as an empath at that age. I didn't know what was mine. I didn't know that was a thing. I just thought I was having all kinds of weird things going on.
Yeah.
Sensations and thoughts that I couldn't explain.
Did you have, Lisa, when you were like a young child, did you have more situations than not that was like, just sit there, don't speak unless spoken to?
No, I don't know that at all. No, I was not raised in a strict household. The only strictness was get good grades. I didn't have a curfew. I mean, it was like, I didn't do anything. I liked school, I was a nerd. I'm still a nerd and geek, I like I don't go out on the weekends. I will sit here and play with my computer, and learn programs or study astrology or, or
because you said something that my husband actually says, because he's so such a feeler empath, that he oftentimes doesn't say something to someone else because if it does hurt them or trigger them or whatnot, he's going to feel their emotions immediately. And like you said, then you take it on like, wow, I just caused those emotions.
Yes. I think
it's a little different. Your husband's experience is a little different than mine in that I felt like what I said wasn't important. I didn't feel the other people's unhappy reactions or dissatisfied reactions. I felt like no reactions because there was too much coming at me, but I couldn't recognize what it was.
Oh, I see.
Okay. That's
too much everywhere. Even if it was a one-on-one conversation, there's still people around. And at that time I was so sensitive and didn't know how to block. I didn't know what was going on. I just, I just assumed because I couldn't feel the interest because there's so much information, for me.
Yeah. So you just shrink into yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
And made the assumption that what I had to say wasn't important because of a few negative experiences. Whereas there's so many positive experiences. My parents always listened to me. My friends I only had a couple really good friends in high school. They all listened to me, but I had but those few negative examples, I focused on those too. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I was always trying to figure out what's wrong. Why do I experience it? Why do I cry every day? Why do I come home from high school and just cry for half an hour to an hour in my bedroom and feel better?
Right.
And then go to sleep for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm like, oh, I feel much better now. I can do stuff. But now that I look back, it was because I was absorbing all this stuff without knowing what was going on.
Lisa, you said something there that kind of triggered a thought in me about we make these, I don't know, it's like we make these vows or we make these very permanent decisions in our mind at a young age.
Right.
That we have no clue how that's going to play out the rest of our life.
And not the truth.
Until we become aware of like, no, this is not working for us. I think that goes for everybody.
It does.
You have a personal example of when you maybe...
Well, what made me think about it is this whole time I was like, wow, Lisa just said she kind of fell into herself and made this assumption that made into then became kind of like your reality in a way, how you lived your life.
Oh, yeah.
Probably around the same age, I made the exact opposite decision that you did. For some reason, I'm like 13, 14, whatever. I decided that every single thing that came out of my mouth, I was going to say it as if it was a statement. So no one could confuse my words or ignore me or, any of it. Well, now, okay, jump ahead 20 years and I'm living my life that way. I mean, it doesn't matter. I could be saying I'm making a PB&J for lunch. I would say it as if it's a statement like, oh, bold.
So what got you there? Like what was the vulnerable moment for you where you realized you had to do it that way? What when you look deep down in there?
I didn't want to be challenged, because when you're a teenager, I didn't want to be challenged with, no, these are my thoughts, even though I'm a kid and I really don't know.
You're beating them to the chase.
Yes, yeah. I'm
beating that criticism before they could criticize.
Yes, right.
So when you looked at that, where did that come from? Was that hard?
Speak it so boldly and so much like it's a statement. So this is fact, people.
Yeah.
I made that decision. Well, then jump ahead 20 years and I started having difficulty in different relationships because people would feel as if because let's say we just disagree. I could care less what you do. You're groovy either way. You're beautiful. Do your life. But if I disagreed because I just live life differently, because the way I spoke with everything's a statement,
people make assumptions.
It off as if I was telling them, "Oh, you're wrong," or "You're not doing it right."
When how you felt,
yes, I was just saying that's not how I do things. But because I've already programmed myself to speak so boldly, then when I was with people, it was like they would interpret it as either unsensitive or I'm judging them or you see when that was never
that was the last thing.
Yeah, that was the last thing. I was just stating who I am and what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But because it was so strong. So I've had to, in my adult life, go, whoa, Cortney.
You're still working on it.
Yeah. You're as old as you thought you had to be at 14.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do have a question though. When you were 14 and you came to that conclusion, you're going to beat them to the chase. You're going to make sure they know what you're thinking before they make any ideas wrong, incorrect ideas. What got you there to that way of approach? That's where you dig in there and go, look at this. And that's where I don't want to look sometimes. You know what I mean? That's where I'm asking, like, where did that come from? When you looked. Who didn't listen? Who didn't understand? Who didn't you or someone else or?
It's interesting because I'm not sure if I'll be able to pinpoint because that time in my life, you want to talk about some downloads that, it's like, whoa, what's going on? With most teenagers. Mm-hmm. But I think for me, what it really was is that I was raised to kind of believe that it's like I'm my own master. I decide what I'm doing. And it was so chaotic. I wasn't sure where, I guess you would say, I was in and out of living different places.
Yeah.
I didn't do well with school people. And they kept just saying, follow the rules or listen to authority. I had a huge issue with authority. I had already been arrested. Let's say that. I had a huge issue. That I think in that 14-year-old mind, it was like, I'm not going to listen to them. I'm actually the master of myself. And their rules don't apply to me. So I do got to jump them to the chase because let me tell you my logic and you're not going to break through that wall. I'm going to tell you so. That was kind of that 14 mentality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stubbornness too, isn't it?
Yeah. Which, if anybody's raising one of me out there, I'm sorry.
Like I said, stubborn.
Yeah. Exactly.
Cortney, Hellraiser.
Yeah.
In her youth.
You know why? Because I was full of anger.
Where'd the anger come from?
Horrible. Well, I'll tell you guys. It started before I even got here. I mean, my dad, what would have been a week before I was born, beat the hell out of my mom and threw her down a flight of stairs.
Oh,
and because she didn't want to go to the hospital, she's all banged up. She started throwing up and throwing up and throwing up. Finally, like 4 days of throwing up, she finally called the hospital and they were like, yeah, you need to get in here. And the placenta had ripped. And I was extremely sick.
Yeah.
So I finally come. I'm not real happy, guys. This world sucks.
Yeah.
A really bad
injury. And then I had a really odd form of jaundice because of it. And I spent 4 days immediately after I was born under a light.
So you
I'm
didn't
very
get
sensitive
snuggles.
to the light.
You didn't get any
So I didn't get any snuggles. I didn't get any. And then, 3 days after they got me home, whatever chaos was going on in the house, I sat directly up with strength, fist in the air, and just started screaming for everybody to stop.
Yeah.
I was pissed before I even got here.
Yeah.
You were.
And that kind of stuff. And I'll say, I worked with Zach from Allied in Alchemy. Great guy. Maybe you guys can interview him too.
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't know who it is. Yeah.
He took emotion code to a whole nother level, and he started finding like, wow, Cortney, that's actually a root of a lot of your issues stemming from this. And what I did on my 40th birthday, for some reason, I'm turning 40, I'm driving around, and I started thinking about, oh my goodness, that actually, I'm taking what Zach did with me, his work. And I realized, oh my goodness, that actually really did mark my entire life. And it just kept building. I grew up in a very dangerous, extremely dangerous household. Yeah. And then jumping here and there and all over the place, right?
Well, no wonder you didn't like authority. Who the hell is authority? Your authority, your example of authority was...
I'm
not good, healthy.
When I was that 3-year-old, when, big 6-foot man dad is about to go off on everybody, I look at him, I go, you knock it off, you're being stupid. Yeah. Because I was already done. Done.
You were 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're probably the only one that could do that too, weren't you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was. Because, why? He wanted the fear. He used to talk to my mom saying, I don't know why she doesn't fear me. And it's exactly that. He wanted the fear from us, and I wouldn't give it to him because why? The damage is already done, buddy. What else are you gonna do? Right. Game on, let's go. So yeah, you want to talk about anger and authority?
God of anger. There's no you're a little child. You have no control. Yeah, except with your mouth and your energy.
Yeah, exactly. My mouth, right? But what I did when I was 40, I realized, wow, that little baby, wait a minute, Cortney, that little baby was all alone under that light for 4 days. On my 40th birthday, I did Reiki and I went back in time. And I'm standing in front of myself as a baby in that little box of light. And I start telling her, keep going, no matter how bad it gets, you are here for a reason. All that good stuff. Keep going. I'm why you're here. It's me, not all the stuff, the bad stuff that's going to happen. All that great support. Keep going, little baby. Yeah, you're going to hate it. You're going to be pissed off through most of it. You're going to want to just burn the world down. But I'm telling you, 40 years later, sweetie, you're going to feel the love. You're going to feel the light. I'm embracing you now, blah, 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 blah. And I did all this stuff. And you got to stop and think, what did I make it through hellish events, hellish stuff? Because my 40-year-old self went back to that little baby and said, you can do it. Keep going. You know what I mean?
You may still go back to some other events as you age,
yes,
and go back and visit 40s, those painful times.
Don't you think that 40s is really when I'm in my 40s, so I can't speak from 50s and up, but as being a 45-year-old woman now, I know more about myself than I ever have. Mm-hmm. Even when I thought I knew everything. Like when I started, to turn 40, I actually looked at myself. Like you looked at yourself and said, exactly who am I? Oh, well, I know who I am now. This is where I've come from. This is what I went through. And this is who I am and where I am now. And I'm not going to be that little girl that's hurt anymore. I am a woman and I'm going to stand to my own. And I think, 40 is really when I started to do that as well. What about you guys?
I agree. I just kind of approached my 40s. For me personally, I think it's more, you're just trying to just get by.
It's a process,
in your 20s and your 30s.
Yeah, and for me, it was like your mid to early to mid 30s. I like around 33. I felt happy for the first time, and now I feel like I'm at where I want to be. But then I felt like I was where I wanted to be, and then at like 36, I thought I was, and at 41, I thought, So there's a lot. Of,
I think
now I'm really happy.
We can slow down. Enjoy life a bit more, take life in differently. And I do want to say for me personally, I don't know, maybe I should ask you ladies, because I've never asked anybody. I am finding that my memories only become clearer like a decade after. Like right now, I can remember my 20s. When I was in my 30s, I could barely remember my 20s.
Yeah. I can see that.
Mine's different. I had a different experience. My memories, I lost them gradually as time went by, and I think it's from years of blocking out things in my current life that made me block out my past. At the time, influences of being talked down to and stuff like that. And I started taking lion's mane about a year and a half after my hysterectomy. I had a surgical menopause. And I had lost my memory for like a year and a half. I couldn't remember what I was looking at 5 seconds ago. I was like, do you remember early podcast, Misty, where I would just forget like all the time. I forget what I was talking about. And we'd have to say, we had an interruption.
Yeah.
But it was like, what? So I started taking lion's mane, a mushroom, and it brought my memories back, and it brought all of them back. But I always remembered early childhood. I have very, very vivid memories of early childhood.
Okay. Wow. So how did you handle that when the memories started coming back?
Yeah. Right.
I processed them and I left my husband. I processed them and I left my husband because I remember some things that I really blocked out. And then I really looked at things from the past, the reason I had blocked them out. This is going into that hard stuff, listeners. I looked at some of the stuff I'd blocked out from my past, and they were examples of I guess you could call it abuse, but being taken advantage of, being lied to, being told one thing that I'm supposed to be, and that I am this, and that I am that, and I am, oh, no, I'm sorry, you're not that, and then the next day, and next week, next month, it's a history of that with me, with lovers, and especially lovers, wanting to put me in my place, I guess you could say. If you want to put it that way. To me, at the time, it felt like it was just, a relationship. That's just how they are.
It was love. Yeah.
I thought it was love.
Yeah.
And now I know that's not, but the realization, when I got to that realization, was when I was taking that lion's mane, and all the memories came back, and I laid them up like right next to each other in my mind. And I was like, oh, the bad way outweighs the good dear. And I haven't been looking at it because, for one thing, I wasn't physically capable of it until I found a supplement that brought my memories back all the way. Because even before I had the hysterectomy, I was going through menopause. I'd started at 39.
Right.
So, and I had the hysterectomy at 44, 45. So, but I had it because of cysts and pain and stuff like that. And, looking at that and having to go back into other painful memories and just acknowledge them. And for me, like you said, going back to that younger self, I've done that too, gone back to my younger self who was crying in a bedroom alone in Phoenix or something, and feeling isolated and not knowing what was going on because of mental distortions or whatever. And I'll go back and I'll just tell her something she needs to hear. I'll remember a moment and I'll just do that. And then maybe I'll forget about it, but I do that. I've done that,
No, the dog went off, and I was going to ask Misty a question.
I was too. I was going to ask Misty about her. Like, where's she been? Where'd she go?
When you were thinking, see, here's another thing that I thought of when I was like 14 or 15, and I locked it in. But I still think it does apply. Somehow it came into my mind of, it's easy to manipulate others, but it's even easier to manipulate myself.
Yeah.
And that's that denial. I'm not looking at this. Oh, I'm going to project out to you a whole different person than who I actually am, because I'm scared of rejection. I'm scared of this.
I do that too. I used to do that when I was younger. Yeah.
And it's like we end up being able to manipulate ourselves even easier than if we're trying to do it, because other people can usually see through our BS, but we're thinking, no, this is who I am. When in reality, no, we need care, we need love.
And Cortney, you seemed to me like when you were younger, you thought or you acted like the boss, kind of. You're in control. Whereas I didn't want a confrontation. You weren't afraid of confrontation, or you didn't mind it. No. I hated confrontation, so I always didn't mind saying you're right, even though.
Oh, see,
even if they avoided a confrontation. Yeah. And that was, I don't like confrontation because I can't outfight people. I can't think that fast. I don't know how to say mean things unless it's like been like just pushed and pushed and pushed and it comes out,
Right.
And
you're feeling all the energy at the same time,
Yes, the aggressiveness and the dominating. And I'm just like, it's so much easier to just say, okay, and go away and just have my own feelings. But that's really isolating and scary and lonely. It's not scary, it's lonely, it's just isolating. And that's when I went back to some of those younger me's and I was like, you're going to have a better life later, It's not always going to be this way.
And I did that too recently. I actually was on a plane doing that. I was doing it different. I was writing it down.
Yeah.
And I was writing like a letter to myself, telling my younger self that it was okay and some things were not your fault. And, and that way I thought maybe, I could make, things more whole for me in that way. I look at both of you two and I see myself in both of you. I was angry. I was an angry teenager as well. I was right about everything. I was a fighter too. But on the other hand, I was very, very sensitive. And I was probably trying to block out that sensitivity. But I was such a sensitive. Like I would be afraid to say something to hurt somebody else's feelings. And that would consume my mind. It was never about me and what I wanted to say. It was about not hurting other people because I could feel their hurt and I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to feel their hurt. So therefore I didn't want to say anything to make them upset because it would come back on me.
Yeah.
And that is a lot to put on a teenager,
So when you started looking back at that, when you were that age, like how did you feel? How did you like explore it and let it and heal it? I mean,
and I'm still doing that right now. Like I said, I wrote, a letter to myself not too long ago.
How did it feel to write it?
It felt good to write it, and I think I was expecting like a life change out of it. And you're not going to get a life-changing event out of just writing a letter to yourself. It takes time. And that's one thing that I am starting to learn too in my 40s is nothing happens overnight.
Right.
It doesn't matter how bad you want it. You have to work at it and work at it and work at it. And eventually it will start to change, but you can't do it in just one letter.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think when we keep talking about in our 40s or even people in their 50s or what have you, what I'm hearing is like emotional maturity, spiritual maturity, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because you do start working through this stuff and you're able to see it in a different light. You're able to take responsibility for the crap that, I had to be like, wow, Cortney, you actually did that.
Yeah,
you created that.
Yeah.
And let go and work through stuff that I didn't have nothing to do with me. It was done to me. But all of it then leads to like this emotional, spiritual maturity. And I do think, well, you end up having to be at a ripe age of normal maturity. You have to kind of get through some, like, I mean, was I awoken, I guess you would say, in my 20s? Yeah. But I was still
you were unhappy, right? You weren't stable. I mean? You were probably turmoil.
Yeah.
What am I doing in life?
Yes, what am I doing?
Youth is wasted on me.
Why am I here?
Yes, right. So I that's what I keep hearing when we're talking about us in our 40s, is that we have more of an opportunity to look back and look at it in like a clear frame. Because if somebody would have said, hey, Cortney, look at this picture from you as a kid in your 20s, I would have been sad for that girl and this and that. And then I would have probably just drank a whole 12 pack because I was pissed. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Now in my 40s, I can look at that little girl, give her love, be with her, but I'm okay. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not, And
listeners, the point of this is like, I don't know, for Cortney, I feel like in Misty, this is the same point as far as the spirituality, the metaphysics, the energy work. As I clear stuff in my, that's blocking me from being happy, from being me, from accepting myself, still working on it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's worth it. And it's an everyday thing, but it's like really hard. That's the thing I want to get through, listeners. Like, it's difficult to look at that stuff. For me, it doesn't sound like it. Maybe listening to me talk about it, or you, because we're not you, listeners.
Yeah.
But look at your stuff. I mean, it gets kind of sensitive, to look at your stuff. And like you said, be compassionate with yourself. I couldn't be compassionate with myself at 20. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know.
No, you didn't know what you were doing.
Didn't know it was a thing.
Lisa, I keep hearing you say, look at myself, self, acceptance. And I think it does take becoming aware of like all that stuff we've done and that's been done to us, stepping out of that denial, becoming fully aware and not denying ourselves either, not saying, oh, I have these gifts, or I think this way, or this is how I love.
Right.
Releasing the expectations, becoming aware of who we really are, and then accepting and embracing that through compassion. I really do, because there's so much that we do hide from ourselves.
And as we go into those things, and then we can offer more people compassion, ourselves more compassion, the world more compassion. We can change, things for the better all around us. That's why I want to keep exploring that stuff. So maybe I can, if I get myself like feeling where I can really help people whenever I'm in that time, I will do readings, I will offer help. But I'm not always in that space. Of course not. Even though I've been doing this forever.
Right.
Well, let me ask you, ladies, do you think this is a part of karma?
I don't know. I think for me, it could be, but there's lessons in it.
Yes.
I'm learning lessons, but I could choose not to.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's karma. I could choose not to do this. I could choose not to look back at 28-year-old me crying in bed and going, maybe I just don't give a crap about 28-year-old me anymore, and I just want to get married and whatever. I really want to do this. It's a drive. I want to have a really happy me. I want to understand myself. I want to understand other people better so I can help them. And I don't know how I can help them, but whatever way I want to. And I like using energy work to do it. And I want to show them that they can do it for themselves, because it's been so freeing in the end to look at that hard stuff and really explore it and say, okay, I get it. I understand it. Because once I get to a point where I understand, I feel like I understand why and how and all that, I feel peace.
Yes, finally.
Yeah. And then sometimes I still have to repeat it, repetition.
Oh my goodness, Lisa. So again, another thing when I was like 14 or 15, I was a very interesting teenager. I came up with a rule for myself or a program for myself to get through this exact kind of stuff. I don't know why it just popped in my head. It was knowledge, understanding, acceptance, resolution. And that's what it must have been a download. When I was like knowledge, I was grabbing all facts from all over. Like, how did my parents grow up on both sides? How did their parents grow up? Down the rabbit hole. General curses and me and this. And I, if you gain all this knowledge and really look at it and be like, and then from that knowledge, I could have understanding, like you were just talking about. Full understanding of, Cortney, you're the way you are because of X, Y, and Z, but it's actually probably nobody's fault, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're doing the best they know how because of how they were raised and so on and all sorts of stuff. Understanding. Then it went to acceptance. Can you accept that?
That's true. There's a step there. There's a step there. Acceptance.
Can you accept that this was your reality when it was and it affected you the way it did? Can you accept it and not deny it anymore? Or accept these attributes that live within you that might not be shiny and pretty for other people, but it is who you are.
Yeah.
Like our birth charts. We got stuff in our birth charts that some people are like, ooh, that's not pretty.
Yeah, I don't.
I am.
Just kidding. Astrologers are scared of my Saturn in the 12th house.
And then we go into resolution, either that being forgiveness or letting go or focus on your main goal or whatever it may be. Seek counseling because everybody should. Stuff like that, like whatever that. Again, like 14 or 15. This whole thing must be about when I was 14 and 15. I'm realizing
it's all right. That's when it started.
That's something you were having to go. You have gone and revisited. It sounds like several times and explored it. And that's a big point though. That acceptance, because I left that out. And then you get the peace.
You get the peace. Yes, it's not mine anymore. I accepted that this happened. I accepted it has affected me.
It's not my identity.
I can choose now, like you said, do I take it with me or do I let it go?
Do I make it part of what I identify as me?
Exactly.
No, I don't have to. I don't have to. Like you said, at 40, you were like, I don't have to do these things this way.
No, you don't.
But some people, like listeners, if you haven't tried this, like looking at some of those hard things, that's why we were doing this podcast. Like that's what made me, I don't know if better's the right word, but trust my intuition more. Because when I could understand things that were incomprehensible about myself that I didn't want to look at, first of all, but then really understand it, like Cortney said, accept it and then find peace, it helped my energy work in whatever capacity. It helped me able to understand the tarot better, the cycles of the tarot, which are very much about what we're talking about in a way.
Yes.
And the cycles of life. I mean, the seasons, the flowers. It makes you understand a lot of stuff.
The Lion King.
Yeah.
The Lion King. Yeah,
I actually talk about a lot of this in my moon manifesting class because it's actually a part of also manifesting. Really identify the season you're in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when we're thinking about manifest, it's always money, it's always money, it's always this.
Yeah.
When in reality, if you haven't looked at some of this stuff, or do you spend the money that is given to you? You need to manifest not doing that first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's true. Step by step. Yeah.
we gotta look at that kind of stuff, and it's a part of all of it. Same as like with time. I brought up the karma thing because with the cleaning of the timelines that I do, that karma residue just it works through all of our lives, and it leads to little things like this. Somewhere along the line, probably timelines ago, my voice probably was shut off at some point, and I went, no, that's never going to happen again. And it didn't present itself again until this life when I went, oh no, everything out of my mouth is a statement.
Yeah,
they're never going to take my words.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So it's all these weird karmic residues that
it was a block that you had to finish.
Yes, it's right.
Get through. Yeah.
And we're not aware of it until we're aware of it and work through it.
And we're aware of it when we look for it.
And Cortney, you're really good at that. You know,
you are great at that. Yeah.
Cortney's very, very good at getting to the root of anybody's problems and bringing it out and forgiving and letting you forgive yourself.
Oh, it's got it.
She is so good. I highly recommend if you need that done, any kind of clearing, she's your girl for sure.
Thanks, Misty. You know, it really is. I love that you said that because, you know, I've been working with people since, I don't know, the early 2000s or something. That's our biggest hang up as humans. Well, one of them, I should say. We tend to, especially if we're martyrs, if we're, you know, still in certain mentalities, we forgive real easy to other people or just to get by in life, you know,
avoid
not wanting to rock the boat. Yeah. But when it comes to forgiving ourselves, that is actually one of the hardest things for people to work through. And it's the biggest. It's one of the most freeing.
And it's the hardest.
And it's hard.
The hardest one.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when we have to look at stuff of like, nah, I actually am the one who caused that. Yeah. I was reacting out of these fears or this emotion or this, you know, I was projecting
identified
and I projected all this
eventually
and actually called it into being. I did this.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so hard to then say, can I accept myself? Can I love myself? Can I forgive myself through this?
After what I did or what
I've dug down into, and like what you're talking about, when I've dug down into and dug and dug and dug, when I had gotten to the point of acceptance and forgiveness and peace and releasing it, you know, and just letting it go, a lot of that I found that at the root was just the very scared. It was lower emotional energy, lower juju energy, lower mental energies. When listeners, by that I mean negative thinking, negative everything. Everything was, you know, that it's hard for me, it was really hard to get from negative everything to that's one-sided. That doesn't make sense, you know, and I had to really look at why I was like that. And it stopped me from thinking what's wrong with me, and it just got me to stop thinking about it altogether.
Yeah.
You know,
gotta avoid because I don't know how
no, in this case, I mean, once I went through like the exploration of why, then like I don't think to myself anymore, what's wrong with me? I've got to fix it still. I always felt like there's something wrong with me that I had to fix. I don't feel that way anymore because I went back and looked at all this stuff, and at the source, I did it, whatever I did I experienced, whatever I experienced, or reacted, however reacted, you know, went through years of whatever that I chose, you know, because I had a lack of self-love at the root of it. Where'd it come from? I don't know. I mean, I'm still looking for that. There isn't anywhere it came from except for my brain.
Well, oftentimes
telling me that. No one told me that.
My professional experience and working in this stuff, you know, we use the term shadow work a lot, but really a lot of the shadow work is actually inner child work.
Yeah.
Because especially when our inner children are bruised, battered, mistreated, they end up kind of driving the bus. They're the ones actually, them and or ego are, and the ego can get vastly blown out of proportion, which is not good. We can never get rid of the ego, but we can bring it right sized and cleansed and balanced.
Mm-hmm. It can help us out sometimes.
Yeah, it's a tool from the divine that we have. We're never going to get rid of it. It's a great tool if it's nice and balanced. But it's oftentimes those two are the ones driving the car, making the decisions for us when we're not even aware of it. We think we're adult beings doing what we got to do, living how we should live. But it's that little broken child that's driving the car and making all these turns and doing this and that. Mm-hmm. And so it's really not even our fault. We got to get into that inner child, love on her, love. And I'm hearing you say that, Lisa, really, I am giving that love and acceptance.
But I did not have it from my family or friends. I didn't give it myself.
Yeah.
I didn't see any appreciation. Even when I was little, I was just very strange. I didn't really have any self-consciousness. I thought I was a cat. I mean, I just was like a little wild thing, but I was good and nice, and I hugged people all the time, and I was all cuddly, and so I was just weird. I was weird, and and then when I got to be in my puberty years, that's when the sensitivity of what other people judgments of me acting like a cat were, and I felt shame.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd never felt it before. So the child, I guess, for me to go back would be like, around 10 or 11 or 12, that inner child, not the little one, but the one that was just like shamed by myself for what other people said and taking it the wrong way, assumptions.
Like Lisa, you're bad. I can't do this. This is the stuff that we tell ourselves and we're not even aware of it.
Yes.
This is bad. You can't be that.
Right.
I'm ashamed. I'm rejected. This is not, and we tell as a child, we're telling ourselves this and we're not even aware of it.
Yes.
Well, then that little child grows up still feeling all that, still feeling, gosh, if I really am myself and I start purring out in public, I'm going to be full on rejected and I need to get a job. I need to fit in society. I need to, you see what I'm saying? Like, I need to do this.
Oh, that was good, Courtney.
There's expectations on me. Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
Oh, you got me.
So the child still is at play, really.
And I got
saying, "Oh, don't be you. Don't be you. You're shameful.
Exactly.
You're bad."
Yes.
It's still at
no
play.
one told me that though. I just felt that way.
We are so usually not conscious of it. And little Cortney inside, why I'm making weirdo, everything I say is a statement. I am all authority, is because it was a scared little girl that got tired of having to deal with being beat down.
Yeah.
Tired of, like, I guess I have to stand up to everybody in the damn world because everyone's horrible. Those are the mentalities of like, nobody's going to knock me down.
Like everybody sucks. That, and growing out of that, well, maybe some of them don't suck. Well, maybe everybody's lovely. Getting there is hard. But
and what? Another thing too, I mean, I think that we all, even when having friendships or just meeting someone, you don't know what that person's been through.
Right.
And I think that we all should consider that, whether we're in a grocery store line or whether we're at the gas station or whatever, and somebody's in a grumpy mood. I mean, none of us know where we've been, where other people have been. And I think that we also need to be patient for those people as well, just because
and learning about ourselves will make us much more patient with them.
Right.
And with their, like you said, put yourself in their shoes. You can't, but if you look at yourself, maybe then it's a little easier.
Yes, it is. And it's easier to forgive and understand that way as well.
Yeah.
So I've always tried to think like that too.
So, I think, to wrap this up, listeners, I think all three of us should assign the listeners some self-exploratory homework.
Yes.
So I'll go first, I guess, unless any of you have anything pop into your mind.
I've got writing.
Okay, Missy, you go.
I've got writing, like I said, and do what I tried. Just get a piece of paper and pen and say, hey, write a letter to that child, write a letter to that kid, whatever you need to do. Go back in time and find that moment and tell that child that, it wasn't their fault or whatever the issue may be. Just start with that.
I love that.
Do it every day at the same time. Just start with that. Like I said earlier, it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
Right.
Courtney, you got one or you want me to go?
Sure. I say write a fears list. But don't just write a fears list. Like, write your fears list. Write each one of your fears out. When you're done with that, set it down. Go back to it. And then label each fear. Is it either a feeling of lack, a feeling of rejection, or a feeling of survival?
Ooh, that's good.
Fears are usually in those three categories: lack, rejection, survival. Label them, put it aside. Then go back to it. When you reread it, read one at a time and go, is that true? Is that really happening? Or is there something in me that maybe was present when I was a kid that no longer exists, but I still am carrying it?
Yeah.
Find out if your fears are, I hate for lack of better words, legit or not. because we're still carrying around a lot that just don't even apply.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Throw it down. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw a little hardcore, maybe possibly homework. This isn't writing. This is just thinking and imagining. Think of times, listeners, where you felt your least favorite emotion, whatever it may be: shame, anger, fear, hate, love, and whatever the emotion is that you don't want to feel. And imagine and think back, where that may have come from. And then start imagining if something had played out differently in your life to where you didn't feel that way about that emotion. Tell yourself another story, and then you can see there could have been a different way of having your life or having that experience, and you can experience it through your imagination. And that's like energy work. That is energy work, your imagination. And you can experience it with all your, if you really fantasize it up, you can experience it just like it happened, and your brain won't know the difference. And that's one way of starting to heal that stuff, is to imagine how it could have been, and then taking what really happened and looking at the two and seeing where that emotion started hurting you.
That's good.
I agree. That is, you keep saying the energy work. That is full on energy work, Lisa.
Yeah, it is.
It's rewriting the story. It's because that energy, kind of like cleaning the timeline, that will now come through.
Yes.
And start shifting the energy that had come after that.
I think
if you
so
imagine
too.
it completely, if you imagine it completely different, you imagine all this great possible dialogue language happening for that event, bring the love to it. It will then start shifting all things that happened after. I think that's great energy work. It's one of the best. It really is.
And what you can also do with that is when you're doing the comparisons, and maybe you have lots of stories you tell yourself about these few incidents, or one incident or whatever it may be that made you have that feeling of not liking a certain feeling more than any other one. Or you can go for a few if you want to be ambitious, but like really comparing. And that's when your ego and your brain can help you out. It can look at it analytically and logically, and it can help you out. If you trust, just trust your logic on looking at this. And if your logic is telling you suck, it's not your logic.
Right. Exactly.
Logic doesn't tell you suck. Something else does.
Yeah. Your essence would never tell you that.
No.
You know what I mean?
Even your logic, your brain might say the words in there, but your logic is going to say,
your logic. Yeah.
Common sense is going to say, come on now. Common sense. Yeah. Let's get in here, common sense. And I think we all have it.
Yeah. And logic is not the same as emotions. And it's your emotions that tell us, oh, you're stupid. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're never that.
Our thinking can be skewy too, or our actual think, the thoughts, the words in our heads. But the logic of figuring something out is always favorable to me. Like figuring something out, logically picking pieces apart, logicking things, logically picking things apart.
The sequence of it all, just to maybe clarify for people, like if you go back to an event, do you start from even before the event and kind of look back to see how things unraveled, and then post-event as to how, like, cause and effect? Is that?
Well, I kind of do it. I would say I'm trying to think of an example to give that was a difficult one. Let's say, shame or body image shame. Okay. All women and some men, a lot of men everybody experiences some kind of body image shaming yourself. It comes from somewhere: TV, parents, culture, friends, peers, whatever. Body image, for example, the way you look is, most people don't like the way they look. Right. So, for example, where did that come from? And I'll go back, and for me, it was, I had weight fluctuations all my life. And at times, like when I was younger, people who were close to me would say, when I was 115, I went up to 120 when I got on birth control, and they told me I was fat. And then my boyfriend was going to leave me and stuff. These people I cared about telling me this stuff.
No.
I weigh 120 now, at 47. And these same people are saying, don't lose any more weight or you're going to be a skeleton. Exactly. So, I mean, it's just, but the thing is when I look back at that, they were going through their own things. Mm-hmm. And they were just trying to get their focus off them and their issues and put it onto me. So I look back and I forgave them for that. I forgive myself for misunderstanding it.
There you go.
I slowly, I look at things on my body that I don't like still. Then, I'm like, well, why? It's my body. And I've been trying to really, this is something I'm going through right now, just really trying to accept my body and love everything about it. Like Jennifer Love on one of her podcasts said, sit in front of a mirror and tell yourself you love yourself butt naked. And I did it, Misty. It was hard. It was hard. I love you.
It is hard.
And it was like,
Hi.
Good. Yeah. Okay, so I get more of, it's not just going back and sending love to an event. It's actually pulling out that root that put a thought.
Yeah, but then I would imagine I would go back and I'd remember people saying, "Oh, you look beautiful," and I didn't believe them or something. Then I'd replay it and I did believe them, or I felt beautiful, but I didn't. I'd really just focus in on the part of me that felt beautiful at prom instead of throw away the part that didn't feel beautiful at prom, and I'd rewrite it to where I never felt that part. But I would know it was still there. It happened that way.
Yeah, it happened.
But my feelings about it changed because of the imagination work. So it's kind of all different times. It's not like in an order. It's kind of like whatever comes up naturally in the process of healing something.
Right. So it's not just changing the scenery and what was said. It's really the thought process. It's
very much. And the energy around it, the feelings around something get looser and lighter and looser. And then looser is as in not so obsessively clinging to this pain,
right?
And then the pain's just gone after a while of
excellent
lots of angles of hitting it from logic, imagination, dreaming up new ways of how it could have played out, and looking at all these scenarios and saying, well, why, what happened here? And both you guys talking about writing is one of the best things you can do for yourself is write lists, like you said, Cortney, and Misty, like letters to your younger self, letters to yourself yesterday. Write anything you want. Writing can always, and reading it back will like clarify so much. Write something this week, read it next week. If you're not a writer, usually you'll find something in there. Like Misty, when you wrote that letter, maybe you were expecting like, wow. Maybe when you read that in 2 weeks, maybe when you read that in a few weeks, you will have that moment.
Well, I think even after today, I've learned a lot just on this podcast.
Yeah, I did too. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable, ladies and listeners. Thank you as always, for listening. And I would like to thank our sponsor, Everclear. Everclear is an advice app where you get advice from psychics and empaths so you can find the clarity you need to create the life you deserve. And lastly, Misty, thank you. Cortney, thank you.
Cortney, thank you so much.
Listeners, we love you.
Bye.
Bye. Say bye, Cortney.
I do that every time. I must say it so low. Bye. I'll be real loud. Bye. I'll be strong with it. Bye.
Oh yeah, get that attitude back. I mean bye. I mean bye.
Hey,
Peace out.